Awesome. Okay, so we're going to talk about SAT math strategies today. It's not really a full math practice session. I think I will have a math practice session with you guys maybe, how many weeks until we take the test? Yeah, so we have time to do another one. Is that, how's that? What do you mean? Okay, creating a good mood for you. Okay. If you didn't get a packet, I have some packets for you. Matthew would like to comment that it's a big packet, but there's also a practice test, and I think I gave you I didn't give you the solutions to the practice test, but I have the solutions to the practice test. Okay? Oh. All right. First thing is first, you're all going to have different goals. And if you're taking the ACT or have taken the ACT, some of the strategies are different for the two tests. So some of you taken the ACT already? Okay. Not a lot different, but keep that in mind when you're balancing between the two tests. Okay, so what do we have? Do you see that? You want a light off? You want some mood lighting? Here, Zach, will you turn off one of the lights or something? Okay, so there are two tests. The no calculator portion. This is very similar to the PSAT. Did everybody take the PSAT? Okay, it's just going to be amped up one step, a little bit harder. No one has taken the SAT yet, though, in here, right? That's fine. First one is fine. You should probably take a practice test, and I'll explain that in a minute. But it's exciting that you get to take it at home, because research says that you will do best in your home environment when taking a test, because memory, you know how they take victims to crime scenes to help trigger something? Like if you're in your home environment, it is easier to remember maybe something your teacher taught you or something like that. So this should be one of your opportunities to have a very good score on an SAT, but you don't want to realize that you have a time problem, like, oh, I ran out of time type thing, because you didn't know what it took. So a practice test will be beneficial for you, okay? So the no calculator problem test. I love it. I am a math teacher. I think it's very easy. I think it's significantly easier because all the problems can be solved without a calculator. True fact is, all the questions on the calculator portion could also be solved without a calculator, obviously. But this time they're just taking away your comfort. This test, everybody should have extra time on. Everybody should have extra time on that. Okay, there's only 20 questions and it's 25 minutes. 15 multiple choice and 5 grid-ins. And the calculator section has 38 questions, 55 minutes, and it says here 30 and 8. The difference between that and the ACT is there's 60 questions on the ACT in 60 minutes. You know, I get a minute per problem. Like it helps you with tempo. It's not so clear on this. Things you need to know. The test is hard. You are not supposed to get an A on the test. Some of you are trying to get an A on the test. The kids who are in trig and kids who are doubling up, for sure, you're probably trying to get them all right. Okay? So yes, you are trying to get an A on the test. But most people are not trying to get an A on the test. Most people are really trying to get a B or a C on the test. So you have to realize your teachers do not prepare you for the feelings you feel when taking this test. When I give you a math test, if you don't know how to do 25% of the problems, you're panicking a little. Do you know what I'm saying? You're like, oh, I remember telling you this, I should have studied, or I should have done this, or I should have done that. You start to feel kind of stupid or insecure, right? On this test, if you get a C or better, you're winning, right? So a C is what some of your goal will be. So you're supposed to go in knowing I'm not going to know all these, right? And having that mindset will help your confidence and will help you do better. It is roughly in order of difficulty. That's roughly. It will get progressively harder as you go. And then it kind of rebounds again towards the end, I feel like. okay, just to see if you've given up. It's about stamina. I always tell kids the people who write the tests are sociopaths, right? They have to fail some psychological tests in order to get employed by College Board because they want people who hate kids and want to trick them, right? So they're trying to see if you have the stamina to stay with it. That was a joke. Okay. People who don't know me, like there's some remote people who don't know me. They're probably fine. If that was your aunt or something, I was just joking. It was just a joke. I'm not calling your aunt a sociopath. I did call her a sociopath, but it was like trying to get you to understand what's happening. The rebound again happens on the open-ended questions. Easy to hard, again on the open-ended at the end, okay? 570 to 600. Oh, see, it's even worse than I thought. I said a C or better, you're winning. A D. If you get a D on a test you take at school right now, how do you feel when you're taking it? Probably ugly, yucky, right? Here, if your goal score is a 600, which for some people in the room, your goal score will be 600 in the math portion, obviously, then you're supposed to get a D. So that's the feeling you want to have. Because of that, I actually considered a few times giving math tests that had questions that kids knew and questions kids didn't know. So you guys could practice knowing, I know how to do this one, let's math. I don't know how to do this one, that's okay, I can guess. But I thought it might stress kids out. I'm not trying to do that. You can meet in math. So you can be a meet in math, what the teachers need you to do and what the school needs you to do, and still fail the test. Isn't that weird? Like get an F on the test, and that's what I need you to do, kids. I need you to get an F or better. It's just strange. It's a strange mentality, but you need to have a plan going in. You need to know what you're trying to get right. Okay, so Zach was a little snarky pants to me, and he said, do I have to go? Can I take a practice test? I go, we're going to talk about the strategies. He's like, I know my strategy. I'm getting them all right. That is his strategy. He's trying to get them all right. Okay, but I do have some things that will help you still. Corey King went to every single workshop I would have because it's hard to get every single one right. Very few people I know have done that. I sometimes do. I take practice tests. A lot of times I miss one. Corey would come to workshops because he'd want to know which one. I say Corey because he did very well on the SAT. What does anybody know his score was? Nobody? Right. Okay, so he did very, very well. And he liked to go because he wanted to know which one I missed. Because if he got the one I missed right, he knew my problem was missable. And he wanted to know, what did you do wrong so I don't do it wrong type thing. Each test day is scored differently. So we're going to have a window for our goal points. But this, to me, is the most important part of the workshop right now we're going to talk about. Okay, so you need to have a goal. I always tell kids in Algebra 3, shoot for 600. I don't think you're all going to get a 600. I want you to, and I know, but I don't want you to feel like a loser if you don't. Do you know what I mean? Trig kids, I definitely think you should be shooting for 600 or higher, maybe 600 to 660 type of thing. Okay, you can try to get a perfect, but if you're trying to get a perfect and you're not doing practice tests, then I would set my goal at like 700. Does that make sense? Don't say your goal is to get them all right if you're not going to practice first. Okay, so 700 is a really good score for math, right? They give you PSAT predictor numbers back, did they? Is the scoring system the same? Your PSAT scores? Is it perfect on a PSAT at 800 in math? It is not? You don't think it is? All right. And if you don't know, that's fine. Those people, though, who either did not get the score they were wanting on their PSAT, everyone got the PSAT scores back? Or you want to go over some of that with me, I'm happy to do that with you. Let's set up a time after. My best time to work is from 1:15 to 2 because I have kids still in here. Like they're not, like I'm supervising kids but not teaching them. So it's pretty good for me to work. I'm happy to work with you until 3. I do take ADHD medication. It does wear off as the day goes on, though. And I can't guarantee I'm not going to be flighty. You guys know how everyone in here knows me. Like Cameron doesn't know me very well, but some help takes longer than other help, is what I'm telling you. Do you know what I mean? We could look over that. But everybody in their head should have a number. I believe 550 is a good score. If math, and you know math is hard for you, 550 will be good. Your reading might cover you. You know what I'm saying? So does everyone have a number in their head? Okay. Now, for this particular test, to get a 550, you guys are gonna probably, you have pencils? You might want a pencil. For a 550, if your goal was 550, then you're gonna jot down 32. Because on this particular test, you needed to get 32 questions right to get a 550. If your goal was 600, it was 38 or 39. I'll just put 38. If your goal was 660, you had to get 45. And if your goal was 700, you have to get 50. If you're trying to get them all right, again, that's fine. But please do practice tests. If you're not, then I would say your goal is going to be 700. Maybe 750. I don't know. 700. I mean, 700 is a freaking good score, isn't it? Right? I still don't quite have the mentality of SAT scoring, because when I went to college, we were taking the ACT, and all my first 10 years of teaching, we did ACT. So like I'm conditioned to know what good ACT numbers are. Like a good ACT number is like 24. You know what I mean? That's good. An awesome ACT number was always 30. 28 would qualify you for most high scholarships. And then 32 and up were like, you're freaking smart. You know what I mean? Like I kind of had those. I don't have the numbers as good down in the SAT handbook as you guys do. So then I'll show you something that will help us with that as well. Okay, so that's your first number you have written down. Your second number, here's a second test. This test was different. So on this test, my 550 people, you only need to get 27 this time. So if your goal was 550, because math is kind of hard, 27. My 600 people, 32. Ooh, that's not what I wanted. We'll talk about that in a second. Good question. What else I got here? What did we say? The next one was like 660 type of people. I don't know, 39. And 700s, 43. Look at that, I wrote it backwards. Okay, so why are they different? What does that tell you about this test? Does anybody know? This test was harder. Right? What I think happens is I believe they need so many people to get such type of score. Okay? So once the scores start coming in and they see how many people missed however many questions, then they assign the grading scale to it after the fact. So this test was harder, therefore you don't need as many questions right to get your goal score, right? And the last one probably was an easier test, kids did better on it. Is there another one I have? Okay, so what should I shoot for? Okay, most people in Algebra 2 or above want to get the 50th percentile or better. Like we want you to be better than the 50th percentile. So I want you to think of all the students in the school, in your class, scratch that. Half of the students in your class, if you're in Algebra 2 or above, you should have a score as good as them. Does that make sense? The trig kids, it used to be we wanted 25% of our population in trig. So that would put you at 75th or above, which again is looking at a 600 or above. Although truthfully, kids, you guys all know, kids start bailing out of that honors track, right? So it's really probably closer to the 80 or above, or maybe even this 83 or above for trig. Does that make sense? Some of you might be in Algebra 2 or Algebra 3 and really You know you don't really know what's going on all the time, but you do every single problem my teacher tells me to do enough times that I can do it. I don't really understand math, but I can do it. First of all, I see you people. I respect you. That was very hard for me to do as a student. I remember my dad asking him my very last homework help question. I didn't understand what we were doing, and he said to me, sometimes you don't have to understand it, you just have to do it. And that was really hard for me. Like, why would I do something if I don't understand it? You know what I mean? And it really hurts with motivation and everything else. So if you have that knowledge about yourself, you're looking at those lower scores in here. But like I said, I think 550 and up is what everyone should be shooting for percentiles. And the colleges, this is the big one. Everybody, see, COVID is so hard. You should have an idea of what colleges you're thinking about. I was glad I was sad last year that we did the college project in Honors Algebra 2 because I could have got through another chapter with you guys, but I didn't know COVID was happening. But I'm glad because at least you hopefully have at least an idea of a college or a non-college type of thing that you might be interested in. Everybody should have a pie in the sky school. Jackson Bruno, it would be Duke University. Is he going to Duke? No, he's not going to Duke. Like, do you know what I mean? Now, would I think it'd be cool for him to apply? Will I encourage him to apply? Yes and no. Depends on the kid. Some kids get crushed to be said, I don't want you. Like that would hurt some kids. Do you know what I mean? So why would he put in for something where to be told you're not good enough is a hard thing to hear? But if that wouldn't bother him and he'd be like, have low expectations and like, sure, why not? Like buy a lotto ticket, then yeah, let's go ahead and do it. Let's roll the dice. You know what I mean? University of Illinois. A lot of people in the room, University of Illinois should be on your maybe that'd be cool type of college. SLU. What else? Wash U, right? Northwestern, what'd you say? UMSL is a realistic one. We'll look at in a second. They may have like a pie in the sky, like this would be cool if I could go there in school. But it's probably too expensive. Yeah. UCLA, perfect. Would you actually go there? Maybe. Right. Do you know what I'm saying? Okay. Now these schools are different than UMSL, SIUE. What else? Illinois State is in between those, possibly type of thing. Bradley. Do you guys know where Bradley is? Bradley's in Peoria. It's a pretty competitive, it's expensive school. Okay, private. These schools are harder to get into. MIT, for sure. Okay, so what would it take if I wanted to get into one of these schools? If you're dead set on getting into one of these schools, you definitely need to do this. So what you could do is you're going to Google the name of your school and then Prep Scholar SAT. So let's do, which one do you want to do? Duke? Because I said that. Sadness. Escape. What do I do? Escape, exit, maybe. Why don't I just open another window because I don't have lots of windows open. Okay, so I go to Google and I search. I have to wait a second because I have lots of windows open. They slowed the internet down here on Fridays too. I search Duke University Prep Scholar, there it is. Prep Scholar SAT. It's fetching my location. That's why there's a dog there, because dogs fetch. You just have to wait patiently sometimes to get accepted. Okay, here is my link. Just have to wait another second. Okay. So it says that this particular school is very selective. Extremely competitive. Do you see this? Green would be easier. So of all the students that go to Duke, that get accepted, the average math score, the average student got a 770 on the math. You see what we're stepping in here? The lower 25th percentile got a 740. So basically, am I going to apply to Duke and get accepted if I get a 600 score on math? No. Am I crushing your dreams here? That's not what it's about. It's realistic. If you said, I always, my whole life, I'm going to Duke, that's what I'm going to do. You can still go to Duke. You'll need to go to a community college probably first, or you can go to Duke for graduate school. Do you understand what I mean? Like the graduate schools sometimes are easier at letting people in and whatnot. You can still go there, but you cannot go there as a freshman. Why do they do that? Because schools get ratings. One of those ratings is based on their freshman retention rates, how many people stay in or drop out, what their grades of their students are. Like they're able to be highly selective and have the best of the best so that they have really good scores, right? Now, where do you think there's another little search trend here? You don't see it where it can say search another school? Wouldn't that have been nice right on here? Or I have to do the whole thing again? Yeah, they only accept less than 9% of the people who put in. Like it is a lotto ticket. Not only is it a lotto ticket, it's a lotto ticket where you have to have high skill to purchase it. Like you have to get a 770 on your ACT or SAT even to purchase it. So where is there not another search trend? Oh, here's some. Look, let's go to a safer school. Boston College. See, they're going East Coast here. Let's do one more search trend. How about SLU? Right? Is anybody thinking of SLU? U of I, that's better. University of Illinois. You guys are talking to me really well. I'll just pick. Can you imagine when I was making these videos on Fridays and all the technology problems I was having because they slowed the internet down on Fridays? Right, sad. It's a sad thing. Okay, it's yellow, right? Average is 700 on math, which is really good, but there are people with 620 that get in. Does everybody see that? Right? So you can get in there a little easier. Now, do a lot of kids transfer? A lot of people want to go to U of I or Mizzou, but some kids who don't get in start at Lewis and Clark and then transfer in. In fact, Lewis and Clark has a transfer program that works with them. You know what I mean? If I did SIUE, I'm sure it's down here in the dark green and blue. Pretty easy to get in. Does everybody understand this? So you make your list. And why do you make a list? Is it to scare you? No, it's to set your goal, right? If you're dead set on getting to U of I and you can't get a 600, then start studying. Start working at it. Otherwise, you might not need to. Some kids will feel better after doing this. Some people say, I'm going to SIUE. I know I'm going to SIUE. That's where I'm going. And you'll find out, oh, I don't have to freak out about this test. I'm probably going to be able to get that score. Do you know what I mean? Some scholarships require those certain numbers. Like, obviously, don't just phone it in when you find out you don't have to get a great score. But this will just help you set a goal. Any questions on the goal setting? Are we good with it? We're good with it. You're not talking to me. This is just like class. No one ever talks to me. Matthew talks to me, and then they probably don't talk to me because when Matthew talks to me, I'm like, I start mouthing him. But sometimes he asks for it. Because sometimes you're not nice and you take my fan from me. See? I'm aware. I have to be here all the time. Okay. Directions. Do not read these the day of the test. Don't read them the day of the test. You're going to know them. You're going to know them because we're going to talk about them right now. Highlight. Read a question. Okay, stupid. But there are a couple things you need to know. First thing, if there's an X or a Y and you get an imaginary number, you did it wrong unless it told you that it was going to be a complex number, right? So they're saying it's going to be real unless they tell you. So you screwed something up. If you did the quadratic formula early and got on, first of all, probably wouldn't be a choice, but this is the big one. This is the big one. It's the biggest difference between ACT and SAT. Figures in the SAT are drawn to scale. That's super helpful. Why? Because if it looks like a 45-degree angle, it probably is close to a 45-degree. Does that make sense? ACT says it's not drawn to scale, which means when you take the ACT test, you are not allowed to trust any drawings, period. Here you can trust them, unless it says otherwise. Sometimes it will say, this drawing is not to scale. Helpful, especially for measuring problems. Like you can actually get the corner of your answer sheet and like mark it off and count if you needed to. Does that make sense? It's legal. Unfortunately, the SAT has significantly less geometry than the ACT. Some people, that's really good. For Algebra 3 people, it's really good. For Trig people, it's kind of good because you get a little bit more geometry. But Algebra 3 people, you can take an algebra for 2 years in a row, right? You're cool in geometry skills. Everything's in plane. You don't know anything different than that. And domain, you don't have to worry about risk factors unless otherwise indicated, for which it's a real number. So you do have to worry about risk factors, actually. Dividing by 0 and square roots and negatives, you do have to consider. These are the formulas they give you. Notice it's almost all geometry, area, volume, and these two guys, special right triangles. I have seen special right triangles on a lot of the practice tests I have taken. Some people who are in Algebra 3, those will be ones you're going to miss. What do you mean there's ones I'm going to miss? Whatever your number is for your goal. Okay, you had two numbers written down on your paper, right? You're going to add those two numbers together and divide by 2. So if, did I write goal numbers now? What did you get? So what did you get? 32 and 38, right? So 32 and 38, you're going for 600. Awesome. I only have to get 35 questions right on the test to get my goal. How many questions do we say there were? 58? 58. So 58 minus 35. I do not even have to math on 23 problems. I could leave them blank and still get my goal. So now it becomes a shopping trip. I'm going to take this test and I'm going to shop for 35 problems. So all I have to do is get 35 problems right. If I can get 35 problems right, I'm good. Now, are you going to get every question you think you got right? No. You really get most of them right, but maybe not. So what I tell kids to do, and the kids are trying to get perfect, don't add as much. But for the 35, I say, okay, let's go ahead and add 10 to it. Let's say 45. So you're going to try to math on 45 questions. 45 questions you'll math on. So you get 13 questions up. When you see it, you don't like it, don't even math at all. Well, if you're not going to math, what are you going to do? Guess. What are you going to guess? C. Maybe. I really like B. B speaks to me. Well, I feel like everybody guesses C. You know? C is like. It could be. This test does, the numbers are evenly distributed on the whole test. All right? A, B, C's, and D's are up for grabs. ACT is different. you guess on ACT, there's 5 choices. They actually tell you to stay away from the extremities there and only have B, C, or D be your happy letter. But SAT, there's only 4 choices. They say you can pick A, B, C, or D, and that can be your happy letter. So when Kate is taking the math test, she has 13 questions. She does not even have to think about. When she sees it, she can say, I don't even know what that says. And she doesn't have to feel bad. She'll guess C 13 times. If it's evenly distributed, 4 questions, and she gets C 13 times, how many is she going to get right? Hopefully 4. Wouldn't that be awesome? So then she just got 4 more questions right out of her goal. And she thought maybe she was getting 35 right already, right? That's how you get your goal. Does that make sense? So when you go in, you need to know how many questions can I guess on. That's for both tests put together. So if you guess on 3, because there's not as many in the first test, then she would have this many left. Okay? So when you have your goal score, you need to know how many questions are going in. I can guess on this many questions. Okay, and what did we just figure out for you? 13 questions, straight C or whatever she wants. Doesn't have to think about it. Period. Okay. Now, if you're in algebra 3 and you see a special right triangle, you might not think about it. Kids mess them up all the time. You know what I mean? Might not even waste time. Now, if you think, oh, I was good at this, I might be able to tinker my way, go ahead and tinker a little bit. But no, don't hurt yourself. Down here, the number of degrees in a circle is 360. Everybody knows that. This right here, number of radians, 2 pi. Everybody in this room is going to get those. You're going to guess on that one unless you're in trim. Okay, we're not going to figure out 2 pi stuff. It's not worth it. It's not hard. But I've seen maybe a practice question on every other test that has 2 pi's in it. Don't worry about it. And triangles 180, no doubt. Everybody knows triangles end 180. Okay, so that's what there. So the highlights are the special right triangles. If you're in trig, you should get those right. They're all over your unit circle, all over your unit circle. And everyone else, though, area and volume is not hard. They're all there. So they ask you area and volume. Remember, those formulas are given to you. The answer sheet, everyone has taken a PSAT test. Okay, so does everybody know how to fill out the short answers? I don't understand why, but it doesn't matter if you use the end or the beginning. That freaks me out, right? But you can. It also freaks me out that they let you write 2/3 as a truncated decimal. But they do. Okay. I've never had to put it. I would never have done that. I would have used the decimal personally, but they'll take it. So you can put it in however you want. 4 chances of guessing. This is important. If Kate has 13 questions that she is guessing on, and she gets to a question that she reads and like, I don't know that. But then she understands what they're asking, and she's like, but this answer is a joke. Like sometimes you can tell an answer choice is a joke, right? Cross it out. Why is that important? Because if she crossed out her happy letter, right? If she had the happy letter of A, and A is definitely wrong, even though it's your guess, you can move to happy letter choice 2. What you don't want to do, and I told my students this, I got a fight with Chris Skinner. Was anybody in that room taking that PSAT when that happened? Oh my gosh, I went in the room. And my kids have calculators, I'm doing like, oh, here's your calculator, do good, like trying to get kids ready. And I'm like, is that your happy letter? What's your happy letter? Like C or B or whatever. And he goes, no. He goes, get out of here. And I think he was being serious. He could have been joking, but he's like, I already talked to them about it. I told them it's ACDC. I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, if you don't know, ACDC. I'm like, no, what are you doing? Because like there's some kids in there who wouldn't know him, and I'm like, you need to be quiet. You got one letter. He's like, no, you got ACDC. It's my strategy and it works. Okay, do you understand why you don't want to do that? If you're guessing ACDC, there's a possibility that the answers are always B, D, A, whatever, and you miss every single question. It's like a true false thing. But if you guess straight C, you're going to get some of them right. Does everybody understand that? It does look wrong. It looks wrong when you look at Nancy, but do not do the Cricket or ACDC. The PE teacher, you know? PE teachers are great. But I don't think that they care as much about the SAT as the math teacher. What else? Your parents might tell you when you take this, don't guess because there's a penalty. Don't call them stupid. That actually used to be an SAT rule and it has changed. Okay, so if somebody tells you that you get penalized for guessing or missing, that is not true anymore. Okay? So there's no penalty for guessing. And this one is super. Look at that poor girl. Yes, yes. Is she stressed? You see? She's sweating. I know, she does need to take my medicine. I think it's been helping a little. Not you. This is important. The fill in the blanks aren't worth more points. So if you have 13 guesses, a lot of times the last fill in the blank one is freaking hard. A lot of times. That's why your guesses. So you can't guess C. You're not going to guess it right. So what do you guess on those? Actually, if you can come up with a reasonable guess from reading it, go ahead and do it. 1, 2, 0. Those numbers actually do come up pretty often in the open response questions. Surprisingly, like kind of simple type of numbers come up. So if you have to guess, don't leave it blank. You're never going to get it right. Throw out a guess like 10 or something. You know what I mean? Try to guess something. Okay, so what are they talking about? There's all these different fancy words. Part of algebra is about lines, 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 and more lines. Our kids, surprisingly, even our trick kids, do surprisingly poor on this. When I teach Algebra 3, I make a big deal about how maybe you guys thought you knew what you were doing, but you just memorized this line stuff, mx plus b, you know? This test is all over it. Initial condition. What's another word for an initial condition? The y-intercept, your starting point. Rate of change. Slope. Miles per hour. All these things are rates. Anything that's a rate, that's the slope. You know what I mean? It's all over it. Lots of graphs, lots of word problems, and almost every word problem is either a line or a system of equations. Systems of equations is also all over it. Passport to advanced math. Like, where did they get that? The sociopaths had the convention and they came up with it. This is your idea of Algebra 2 topics. Our students actually usually do pretty good on this. Why? Because that's usually the class they are sitting in at the moment. Algebra 3 especially, I have seen questions on SAT practice tests, and I'm like, dang, that could have come right out of math lab, like straight out of math lab. It looks like it just could have been right there. A lot of function notation and stuff like that. Quadratics all over it. Vertex form, moving left and right and up and down, all that stuff, all over it. Polynomials. Problem solving and data analysis. There is always some statistics on there. Trig kids who are trying to get a high score and get them all right, I need you to please write down, I'm thinking about what I need to say. Standard deviation. Standard deviation has shown up on more than one practice test I have taken. It is not hard, but they will ask you questions about a data set, and they'll ask you about its like average and its standard deviation. Do you know what the word deviate means? Do you? Doesn't it mean different, away from, like how, right? Is that what it means? Right? How far do you deviate from the norm type of thing? I actually, and I don't remember, there is a formula for it, but I actually think it's asking you how far apart the numbers are spread apart from each other. Like if it's a small standard deviation, I believe the numbers are all pretty close together. I think it kind of has to do with the range a little bit. I don't know, but look it up. You do know more about this stuff than you think. Your math scores tell us we struggle with this. Probabilities. We think you have some common knowledge about this, but we really don't because we don't teach it much to you. It's stuff you're supposed to be getting from the news and from your other science classes. Like you're supposed to be able to look at tables and be able to understand what's happening there. But unfortunately, we don't. I do look some of these things over with kids. Mean, median, and mode you will need to know as well. And then the last thing is called additional topics. Less than 10% is additional topic, and that is your geometry. Less than 10% is geometry. Isn't that crazy? Now, I one time called BS on that, but sometimes they call algebra, geometry, they call, wait, what I think is geometry, they're calling algebra because you had to use algebra to find the missing piece of a triangle or something. So there might be more shapes on there than you're thinking. They claim that it's only 10%. I'm thinking the 10% they're thinking of is probably like circle stuff with secants or areas type of things. But I think whenever you're actually finding angles, they're calling that algebra. Okay? Complex numbers that hey, secret spies. Okay, yeah. Hey, right. It's okay. They like it. I do not. No. The band might. Because they used to do pancakes with a bunny. My bunny. I wish you would have asked that over the other time. He said, do you have any Easter bunny costumes? Which is just a funny question to ask me. Because it's funny that she would think that I would have an Easter bunny costume, but it was because of student council. Like then she said because I'm like, all right, I have one right here. Okay. You probably aren't going to remember as much as you do. The best thing you can do is take practice tests. I have thoughts about that too. With practice tests, it is your best interest to take a full practice test at one time. Ain't nobody got time for that. Okay. That's what's best. Why? I have adult ADHD. Period. When am I going to run out of energy? All kids have a little bit of attention deficit. How do I know this? You've conditioned to be that way now with your cell phones. We have trained you to have attention deficit. You have to sit and test for a long time. Does everybody understand that? You might want to practice taking a full freaking test. When did I run out of steam? When did I run out of time? Just so you know before you take it. Do I think you're all going to do that? No, I'm not stupid. If you're going to take a full math test, maybe you take the no calculator portion one day and the full one, the bigger one, the next day. You should try to take at least one practice test before the actual day. I gave you one in your packet. Do not use a graphing calculator if you do not know how to use a graphing calculator. Everyone knows what I'm talking about. Remember the first time, like, where is the fraction button? You guys all know. Oh, math one changes it to, like, remember the first time you did math one and your life was changed? Right? Use a freaking yellow calculator if you want. The yellow calculator actually simplifies radicals. It's beautiful. But don't use a calculator you don't know how to use. Okay? Make sure the battery's good. That's also a sad thing. Your battery runs out. In geometry, rule number one, draw a picture. They didn't give you one, draw one. Mark up what they give you. You can write all over your test booklet, all over it. It's yours. If they tell you something is 3 inches, you can mark it and then like count it 3 on 3 and try to figure out the next one by that if you don't know how to do regular math on it. Don't ever erase. Scribble. Right? Don't use a eraser that leaves skid marks. Oh my gosh. Tuff the eraser first. Do you know what I mean? The skid mark eraser. Oh my gosh, and that's the worst thing ever. Right? I also tell kids to have a pencil that's not completely sharp, like a little bit dull, but not too dull. I think it makes you fill in the bubbles faster. Right? If it's too sharp, you have to try to save everything we can here. You don't have to show every step. Some of you do. But if you are finishing a quadratic formula problem and you can love math in your head and just find the right answer. Don't write x equals what the answer is and then like do a little cloud bubble around it like you do on our tests. That's a waste of time. Those little microseconds can't add up. Does everybody understand? Only the answer sheet is great. That's the only thing they look at. If they say the word rate of change, it is slope. It's rise over run. And something I want to show you about this that I've seen on 2 practice tests. They aren't giving you the slope formula in the, look, I'm writing right now, nothing is happening. Of course. They aren't giving you the slope formula in the formula sheet. They don't give it to you. And I just told you it is all over the test, all over. You have to know it. Everybody knows rise over run. They mess up the next formula. If you spell rise like you are a stupid person, you would spell it with a Y, wouldn't you? Because you are stupid. Do you see all the Y's up top? It's y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, right? Uphill, positive, increasing, positive, downhill, negative, right? Steep lines have a great rate of change. Big number, little slow baby slope, right? Anything that says per something, miles per hour, pages per minute, that is a slope. Think speed. The thing I said, I didn't, on the y-intercepts, this is what I want to show some of you. Corey was mad about this one. They asked you to write an equation of a data set. And it looked like this, the graph. Okay, like this. Seem easy? It's a line, right? Mx plus b. So what's the slope here? Well, I'm going up 2 over, be careful, up 2 over how many? 10. So it's 1/5. What's the y-intercept? Right, and it's not. Y-intercept means x equals 0. Do you see what they did here? This is what I'm talking about. These are jerk faces. Look where this graph started. That started at 10. Isn't that horrible? You see? So you would have had to go 1 more step or 2 more steps to do it. And I just made that up wrong. I shouldn't have started this one at 0 if that one didn't start at 0. That was my own being stupid. But you have to make sure you pay attention to the labels on the graph to use the units correctly and whatever. If Kate saw that problem, she's like, ooh, this one's easy. It's a line. I'm good at these. I practiced them. And she used that as one of her right answers, and then she got it wrong, right? That sucks. It's horrible. Okay. We've been talking for what? 50 minutes? We're almost done with this. No, they're all looking at me like, we're almost done, right? There's only like a couple more slides left. And then there's practice problems, and we're not doing the practice problems, right? There's practice problems. Those are practice problems. Systems of equations. If they give you a system, use the choices. Algebra 3, we talked about this when you took your placement test. Remember, some kids did not get the score they needed for the placement test? And I said, you don't have to do the math. Take the choices and plug them in. If they say equivalent, if the word asks you what is equivalent to something else, and you have x squared plus 4x plus 5. You guys all know that x plus 4x plus, those are equivalent. You would know the answer, but let's pretend you didn't. Okay, and this is choice A and this is choice B. Let's pretend you don't know how to factor, and I want to know what is equivalent. This is called the Claire Braden problem. When she figured this out, actually Riley as well, okay, when she came in, this blew her mind, and she's like, oh my God, I could get so many more questions right now. If it says equivalent and you don't know what to do or you're not sure, pick a number. Don't pick 1 and 0 because 1 and 0 are special. Some weird things sometimes happen there, okay? Pick a number. Let's say 10. 10 is usually pretty easy, right? Plug 10 into this original equation. 10 squared is 100 plus 40 plus 5. It's 145. If they're equivalent, when I plug 10 into the choice, what is it going to give me? 145. And if it doesn't, it's not equivalent. So here, 10 plus 4 is 14. 14 times 10 plus 1. Did I mess that up? Did I mess this up? 4 and 1 does not equal 5. Yeah, I did mess it up. There's not a correct choice here. We're going to change it to a minus. Pretend Mrs. Bruno's not stupid. This is what you get from making up problems on the slide. X. What am I doing? Plus 5. Is this better? X minus 1. And this isn't 145 anymore. 135? Okay, are we better now? When I plug that in, 14 times 11, what is it? 140 minus 5. Right, 135. Okay, 14 times 11 is not 135, right? Can't be right. Here, 10 plus 2, 12, 10 plus 3, not it. 10 plus 5, 15. 10 minus 1 is 9. Is that equal? It does, right? If it says equivalent, you can do that. If there are x's and y's, you can still do it. Don't pick the same for both. Say x is 10 and y is 5. Plug it in and find the one that matches. That test strategy can usually get kids at least 2 questions right they didn't think they could get right. It would have been a skipper, but if it says equivalent, you can do that. Systems, use the choices. If you need to practice that, Algebra 3, we're getting ready to start that actually on Monday, or whenever you're testing Monday, Wednesday. Beware of the partial answers. So this is for Zach. There is questions on there, if you think you're getting them all right, that are commonly wrong mistakes kids make. You won't confidently circle those answers. They are the partial answers. They frequently will give you a problem, ask you for the answer, what you think. It'll say solve this, find x plus 4. Guess what one of the choices is going to be? Whatever x equals. You know what I mean? First, you have to find x, which here there would be 2 answers. You would factor that, right? X and x plus 5. What are the 2 answers? X equals 0 and negative 5. They want to know what x plus 4 is, though. They don't want to know what x is. This will be one of the choices. X plus 4, though, would have been 4 and negative 1, and that's the correct answer. Anytime you're reading a question, they ask you to find x plus something or 2x. Circle it first when you're reading it. Mark up your question and put a star by it. Because even when you're mathing, you get excited when you see the right answer on the list or part of an answer. There is no partial credit. I really wish that there was partial credit. Like a half pointer. Okay, different strategies. You could pretend there are no choices. This is how math teachers do it. Every time I do a test, I pretend there's no answers, and I do it the way math teacher would do it. Spoiler, you guys aren't math teachers or math majors. You should probably not do it that way. You might do some of the problems that way, but not often. And then you just find the right answer. This is bad for partials. This is really bad for partial answers. Kids miss that because they'll miss the partial answer. They'll find a choice that wasn't quite right. You can use the choices. SAT, the big manual that I read that looks like a phone book that says all the strategies, this is the thing they push the most. Use the choices, plug them in. Does it make it true or not? It's technically not supposed to be a math test to see who's the best math student. It's a college prep class. What is it? College readiness test. Who will do well in college? They want to see if you know your test taking strategies. You should do that anytime you want to eliminate some answers or if you just don't know what to do. If you take the time to read the question and you're Kate and you have 13 to skip, you should probably say, can I eliminate any first? It will improve your chances of guessing. Then go your happy letter. Oh, happy letter. This is funny. Do you know what this is? It says always double check because it's like Czech Republic. There's two of them. Okay, this is really hard for kids. It was so much better when you used to take them in your classrooms with your teachers, like your old standardized test, because once you're done, your teacher would like give you the look. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? And then you're like, I'm not done. And you would open it back up. Use every single second to redo some problems. Any problem you did on the no calculator portion where you had to do any long multiplication or division or things by hand, redo the whole problem. Don't even look at your work. Algebra 3, that happens all the time. We can't find your mistake. I'm like, I don't know where your mistake is. I can't see it because like you started copying my numbers or something. It's best just to redo it. Start it over and redo a new problem. If you have time, redo it. When I take a test, I know Morgan Johnson does this. I would always put dots. First of all, be very careful about this. On the answer sheet with a pencil, anyone I wasn't quite sure on, or if I was guessing, I would put a light dot. You can't mess up your answer sheet or it won't score right. And then I could keep track of my 13 guesses, right? Make sure you erase those marks at the end. But then when I'm double checking at the end with my extra time, I'm only looking at those ones with dots because the other ones I felt good about. Or in the manual, you could put stars on the ones you're right or something like that. Give yourself some indicator. Best way to improve is to study. All mistakes that you will make when you check your answers are one of these four things. You don't know the content. That's geometry, maybe you don't remember it. If you're in algebra 2 or algebra 3, you don't know the trig stuff, but that was going to be your guess anyway, right? So you don't know it. Time pressure, you ran out of time or you hurried. You didn't even know what they were asking. They asked for x plus 4, but you found x. That's like your partial answer mistakes. And a careless error, which is your sign mistakes. When you had to factor and change the signs, you didn't change the signs and you used the factors instead, right? If you don't know how to do a problem on a practice test, you need to show it to me. I don't want to help you with questions you guessed on. If you think you got a question right and you missed it, those are the ones you have to get right. I have to help you with those. So when you take a practice test, mark the ones with a star that you think you got right. And when you check it, if you miss it, get with your math teacher and say, why did I miss this? I thought I did it right. Because that is a mistake you'll make again. Okay, and all the rest are just practice problems. If you want to practice any of these problems, I am going to stop the screencastify. You can do these problems and I'll go over them real quick. And I say real quick, but there's quite a few of them. So it won't be really quick. It'll probably be another, I don't know, half hour, 45 minutes. But if you want to go, you're free to go. Okay, so that's it I have for you. There is a practice test. And you also could just take that home and do those, and I can just, the answers are all out there. You can just ask later if you have questions. Maybe you guys would rather do that. Take them home, and there's a ton of extra questions. So if you're not going to do the full practice test for time, you can just start this. And